see back there manning the laptop. And we're going to just talk about a little bit about experiential entertainment, which is just kind of, we're not trying to create a new buzzword or anything, but it seems to be the kind of the common thread of like WyrdCon and stuff like that. I mean, it's experiences, it's experiential storytelling. And we're just going to kind of take a look at some historical stuff, and it'll be kind of like a piece of this will be, I don't know, documentary style, but we're going to look at some examples of cool things, and past, present, and kind of looking ahead towards the future. Trying to figure out if this whole thing is just kind of a fad, or if it is kind of the future of entertainment and storytelling. And hopefully by the end of this, we'll all have consensus about that answer. I think we have some pretty good ideas about where things are going. So we'll go ahead and progress to the next slide.
What happened? Sorry, we're still trying to work stuff out. Are you giving your spiel already?
Ladies
and gentlemen, spectators. Yeah.
I thought we were ready to go.
Sure.
So in the meantime, I thought I would do a couple of impressions and maybe juggle. Oh, there we go.
We're trying to get the sound working.
Okay. The first thing we want to do is just kind of as part of this fun afternoon together, we're going to do something a little contrary. Usually you sit down with these people, these things, and you're told all over the place to. What happened to turn off your cell?
What happened?
It's getting worse, not better.
No touchy.
But we want to encourage you. I want to encourage you to everybody pull out your cell phone and like not only take it off mute, but I want you to turn that volume way up, because I kind of want to hear it's a good illustration of the kind of wired society we live in now. But I want to hear, as opposed to if the phone next to you kind of starts making noise, don't give each other the stink eye. I want you to kind of look at each other and be like, hey, you're really popular. I mean, this is kind of what we want to do. So I want to hear a lot of beeps and bings, and hopefully I'll get emails during the thing because I'm usually not very popular. But we'll see why in a little bit. But it's important that we kind of have this little second screen in our pocket that is actually doing things. So yeah. So let's take a look. Let's start with. Do we have sound yet, or do we know? Oh, it sounds like we do.
Ooh, technology.
Yeah. So I wanted to take a look before we look at stuff now. Let's go back, shall we? Let's go back to a simpler time and a simpler place in the semi-distant past, when people tried to kind of extend their stories out into the real world and kind of see what happened. So you may recognize this movie, A Christmas Story.
Weeks of drinking gallons of Ovaltine in order to Ovaltine inner seal to send off for my little orphan Annie's secret decoder pin was about to pay off.
Master Ralph Parkour again. All right. Behnam to all serving that Ralph Parker is hereby appointed a member of the Little Orphan Annie Secret Circle and is entitled to all the honors and benefits occurring thereto.
Signed, Little Orphan Annie. Countersigned, Pierre Andre, in ink. Honors and benefits, already at the age of 9. Come on, let's get on with it. I don't need all that jazz about smugglers and pirates.
Listen tomorrow night for the concluding adventure of the Black Pirate Ship. Now it's time for Annie's secret message for you members of the Secret Circle. Remember, kids, only members of Annie's Secret Circle can recall Annie's secret message. Remember, Annie is depending on you. Set your pins to be 2. Here is the message. 12, 11.
I do. My first secret meeting.
14, 11, 18, 16.
Oh, Pierre was in great voice tonight. I could tell that tonight's message was really important.
3, 25. That's a message from Annie herself. Remember, don't tell anyone.
90 seconds later, I'm in the only room in the house where a boy of 9 could sit in privacy and decode. B. I went to the next. E. The first word is B. S. It was coming easier now. U.
I'll be right there, Bob.
G. closer now. The tension was terrible. What was it? The fate of the planet may hang in the balance.
No, maybe it's not cool. I'll be right now. It's not out loud.
She almost there. My fingers flew. My mind was a steel trap. Every pore vibrated. It was almost clear. Yes, 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 yes.
Be sure to drink your Ovaltine. Ovaltine? A crummy commercial? Son of a bitch.
So there's kind of an early attempt at, imagine a world where, you know, we could, Robbie wanted to take part in this story, and he like dug deeper and found cool stuff and wanted to get it from a commercial. But imagine a world where he actually could be like solving secret messages and helping little orphan Annie. We kind of live in that world right now. We've got the capability to do that kind of stuff. So I mean, this is just kind of an example of what we're talking about, kind of, you know, this experiential entertainment idea where the story or the entertainment can kind of surround us in our real life. So let's take a look. Let's move forward a little bit. Well, actually, let's look back. The present, the modern era. A couple things. We're gonna, because of the kind of intimacy of the room, want to make this kind of more even of a discussion and a conversation than just kind of a, you know, standing up here talking. So if you see something that gives you ideas about other stuff, or there's other examples of stuff, feel free to like shout them out. We can go from there. And I also want to kind of start, we're going to talk about the present kind of in this modern era of since broadcast and kind of this, I mean, because we could go back and be talking about experiential entertainment back sitting around the campfire with cavemen. I don't want to go there. I want to just like look at the past, I don't know, kind of 100 years or so, and see where things are. So there's a lot of different ways. Each one of these little dots that Pac-Man's trying to eat up here are kind of different categories of the different ways, different ways of entertaining people nowadays, and that kind of build worlds that kind of, you know, surround you in kind of fun ways and kind of make it feel like, I think the thing that they all have in common is they try and make it feel as if the story that you're taking part in is actually part of the same world that you're living in little ways or sometimes really, really big ways. And I think, and with varying levels of success. So let's go back, way back. I mean, the first obvious example of this is amusement parks. I mean, we look at amusement parks today, you know, what with all of their trimmings and trappings and you know, cue lines that are part of the story. But let's take a look. There's an interesting example way back at the beginning. There was Coney Island, and there's an interesting example from Coney Island that Coney Island had a lot of rides. Hang on, and Coney Island had a lot of rides, and it had one of them was this steeplechase, which was kind of a roller coaster where you sat on horses. But there was an interesting thing about it, you know, they had dark rides and all that kind of stuff. But there was an interesting about it where there was an attraction at the end of the ride, at the exit, that was kind of called Blowhole Theater. And yeah, it kind of got the audience involved in a really unique way. So go ahead and show that. I want to see what it is.
The horses were only part of the fun. Dismounting from the steeplechase ride, customers had to cross a small, bright stage, ruled by a clown and a dwarf. It was called the Blowhole Theater. It played for almost 70 years, New York's longest running show. As a couple stepped onto the stage, a jet of air blew the woman's skirt up around her waist, while the dwarf gleefully shocked her date with an electric cattle prod. The audience shrieked with laughter and waited for the next victim, while the latest ones took their seats in the crowd. Sometimes the manager had to drop in the stage and empty the theater so a new audience could push in. Jim had discovered that customers would pay for the privilege of entertaining other customers. That people liked seeing shows, but they liked seeing people more.
Yeah, that last shot is really interesting. I mean, they built an entire theater around the exit of the ride. So the people who just kind of sit, they go through the ride and it's like, oh, I got the kettle brought it, oh, I want to sit and watch that happen to other people now too. And people would sit for hours and watch this, and it was hilarious. And
the beginning of reality television.
The beginning of reality TV, exactly. It's kind of the same thing. So that was kind of the first example of really kind of the audience becoming part of the story in kind of a really interesting way. And I want to credit Mike Manello for letting me know about that initially, because he's our resident Coney Island expert. So, and then we move forward. Obviously, I mean, there's so much we could talk about amusement parks and theme parks. I mean, that could be a session in and of itself. You want to talk a little bit about the present day and kind of...
Sure, we can move on to, but Universal Studios, everybody's been there. I mean, I'm a filmmaker by trade, and that's why I became one, because of Universal Studios got you involved, got you on that ET thing. I don't know if they still do that, but I think I still have the picture of me on that bike. And it started it all, right? So it's been experiential entertainment this whole time. This mic sounds really weird.
Yeah, they've got Harry Potter Land now, and I mean, Disney, the whole point of Disneyland was to extend. I mean, we talk about product placement and how bad Disney is at it today, but you got to remember they've been doing it since the very, very beginning when Disneyland first opened. It was a showcase for the films that they did. There was Snow White's ride, and it was all kind of extending that, and it wasn't so much to like make money off of it. I mean, sure, that was a big part of it, but it was also a way to kind of make you feel like you were living the story that you just watched on the screen.
So let's move on.
Moving on, so obviously radio and TV have been really interesting. Obviously, when we think of experiential entertainment, immersive entertainment, the first thing that comes to mind when we're talking about radio is Orson Welles and his infamous War of the Worlds broadcast on the Mercury Radio Theater. Where on Halloween they presented the show not as a radio drama, but what they did was they kind of pulled back a fourth wall a little bit there and said, we're going to present this first part of it as a radio news broadcast. And as the story goes, many people heard, they tuned in late, missed the intro, heard the radio broadcast, thought it was real, panicked, ran out in the streets, blah, blah, blah. Since then, that's come into question as to how much that really happened, because newspapers reported on that story, and we got to remember at the time, newspapers were kind of very threatened by radio. So they were kind of happy to kind of perpetuate with this, what I think has become an urban myth, because there's not a lot of direct evidence reporting that actually happening. But that was a great example of that. And also moving forward into the TV era, I don't know how many of you grew up in LA. Was this just an LA thing? You remember this Winky Dink show from my early childhood? I remember Winky Dink was a TV show where you could, very importantly, you could go to Save On Drug Store and you could buy this magic screen that would stick to your TV screen by, static electricity, and then you could get crayons out and you could draw on that screen, not on the real TV screen. So it was a little cartoon character, and he'd say, oh, if only I could get up to the top of this cliff. Kids, draw me a staircase, and so you draw a staircase between the things, and then a little cartoon character would walk up this staircase that you could draw on the TV screen, much to your mother's horror when you ran out of the real screen. But that was kind of an interesting attempt at, making you feel, it's again playing around with that fourth wall, making you feel like, oh, I'm influencing the story, even though you really weren't, but it felt like as a kid, it was really cool. Draw me an apple tree, I'm hungry, so you draw an apple tree, you pull an apple off the apple tree and you eat it. So it's really kind of a fun idea. It's like, kids, help me, I need this thing, and you've got magic powers, and so you can draw on the screen and make things happen, and then you could, wipe it off. It was like an eraser thing. So, and that led up to, when we get up more into the 80s.
Yeah, the 80s. I don't know if any of you guys remember this, probably too young, but there was a toy that you could buy and an accompanying TV show, and you could shoot you could use the toy to shoot some of the enemies, just like the show did. This was Captain Power, the 80s. There's so much.
We love it.
I don't believe it. Behnam zeroes in on the TV dart, fires invisible beams and score, and keeps score. Hey, Washington! Scoped out the FP7. Score! Oh, shit! The power of the future is in our hands.
Captain Power produces
So the power of the future in our hands. I mean, in our hands has been kind of a common thread. I mean, it's so we want to experience the story, but we also want to touch and hold it and play with it and be able to manipulate it and stuff like that. So that was really interesting. There was also some other, what was the other toy? There was another toy that would listen to the audio of the show and it would respond in some sort of ways.
Yeah.
Ruxpin kind of thing? I don't remember.
Yeah.
So yeah, TV, but again, we're getting into, TV's mostly a broadcast medium. Radio's mostly a broadcast medium, so it's a little bit tough to, again, to have that two-way interaction. So it's always kind of
technology just now.
Yeah, an illusion. So moving forward, obviously, movies have tried a lot of stuff to kind of make the illusion more realistic. The first of, most notably, we all love our 3D movies, you know, back in the 50s. That was kind of the first, one of the first attempts. But that was just the beginning of, that was kind of the one that stuck. But man, they tried a lot of gimmicks back in the day for movies. There's this guy, William Castle, who did amazing stuff. He would create, yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but he would have movies where all of a sudden, you know, skeletons would be flying over the audience in the middle of kind of this, what we would call it 4D theater right now. He was also most famous for The Tingler, which is the next slide, which is called The Tingler, which is the next slide, which is called The Tingler.
The Tingler. Distracted. The Tingler.
These were actual seats that would shock you. They would send an electronic shock through the chair, and you know, it was funny. But it was all about hype. It was all about gimmick. But it was a lot of fun. People would go, and it kind of, you know, translates to today when, you know, you go to Walt Disney World or Disneyland, and they've got the Bugs Life Theater, or these 4D, the next one, the 4D theaters where. Oh no, this one. Sorry, Sensorant. Who remembers Sensorant from back in the 80s? That was like, basically they installed humongous subwoofers in the theater, and it came out with the movie Earthquake, and there was another movie called Roller Coaster where it was just, you know, the whole thing, it would just shake the whole theater. People lost their fillings, and it was amazing. And it was, you know, it was make you feel like you were actually there. Cinerama, you got to mention Cinerama too. I mean, you know, the wide screen, the circular screen. Rocky Horror Picture Show. This is an example of where the fans themselves kind of turned the movie interactive, obviously. And then the interesting thing with this is, right, this was before the internet. How this became viral and happened around the country, around the world, purely by word of mouth among college students. They would go to one college town, as near as we can tell, that's how it spread, was through colleges. There would be screenings, and they'd go back home to their college, and they'd say they did this thing. And it became this national, this worldwide phenomenon to just kind of dress up and do this call and response thing to the film. And it's kind of amazing when you think about it. How did this happen before? I mean, I'm sure they had, I guess, BBSs back then, but I don't know. It was just really kind of fascinating.
Phone calls?
Phone calls?
Letters?
Crazy.
I don't know.
Crazy. They must have talked about telegram. Then we get into 4D movies, which I jumped the gun there, and that's like with the Bugs Life, and where it may be a 3D movie, but they've installed things, and maybe it sprays water on you, or it blows air on your feet to make it feel like there are bugs running across you, or, you know, there's fans to make it feel like there's wind, or they'll pump fog into the theater, or cold, to just kind of make it feel like you're, you know, there. Smells, you know, and that goes back. They had smell-o-vision back, and that was another Castle thing he tried with the smell-rama thing. And then we get to today, and really, to me, Gravity. You saw Gravity. Did you see Gravity in 3D?
It's the way to see it.
That to me is more of an experience than a film, right? I mean, you guys have all seen this film, right? I mean, when you think about it, I mean, for all the people poo-pooing, oh, you know, the script was terrible, blah, 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 it's almost like the story was, to me, was a light narrative rapper, right? It wasn't as important as just this feeling like you were immersed and you felt like you were really in space. And astronauts even said, real astronauts said, you know, commented at how realistic it was. They said this really, really felt like it does when you're out there. So that's movies. You know, then we got to talk about LARPs. We can't talk about LARPs here because we're not the experts. It's almost like there's too much to talk about. That's what this whole weird kind of was based on, right? Now it's kind of expanding out. One of the interesting ones, obviously, is the Battlestar Galactica LARP. And it's interesting, the two different, you know, we've got kind of Nordic LARPs and we've got more American LARPs. And it feels like, I think Nordic LARPs, correct me if I'm wrong, Nordic LARPs are a little bit more
immersive.
Well, no, I mean, regular LARPs, I mean, there's competition, but Nordic LARPs are kind of less competitive and more about just kind of creating this interesting scenario and just letting it play out, whether it's, you know, Battlestar Galactica or just saying, hey, we're back in San Francisco, we're back in the Haight-Ashbury district, you know, during, you know, the breakout of the AIDS epidemic, you know, how is that a competitive game? So it's really interesting, and I got, you know, this could be a whole session by itself. And obviously, this convention is a whole session on itself. So we won't talk about that very much.
Moving on,
because that's what the rest of this is about. Theater. Now, theater, as things have gone forward, I mean, theater has really kind of started to embrace this, right? I mean, they've embraced the idea of, it's again playing with that fourth wall. Typically, you've got the theater, you've got the stage, you've got the proscenium arch, which is kind of, that fourth wall, the invisible barrier between the audience and the stage. And now they've been playing around with it. This has been going on for a while. I remember back here in LA, back in the 80s, there was a show called Tamara, which took place at the American Legion Hall down up on Highland, up in Hollywood. And they took that building and they converted it inside into a big mansion. And the idea was that this play would happen, and you would pick a character to follow or not. You would just kind of wander around wander around from room to room, watching what happened. Now, as a teenage kid, the thing was, oh no, I heard that the maid was really hot, so you want to follow her around because there's a certain scene where she makes out with a guy in the bedroom, and you wanted to be there for that. And it was kind of awkward because it was small. There's like 12 of us standing there, and you can just see, and they don't see us, right? And it's like, well, this is awkward, But it was a really, and you're hopping downstairs. I was exhausted by the time I did it, and but it was a really good attempt, and it ran for a long time. It ran like 7 years, I think. And it was a big success back in the day. And it was kind of that first immersive theater, they kind of called it. But that led to stuff like today. We all have heard, or most of us have heard, Sleep No More, which is a production by Punch Drunk in New York. They've also got a couple in London that they do. And you were there. You did the Sleep No More.
Anybody seen Sleep No More? Anybody? So it's pretty creepy. You show up to a hotel, an old hotel, and eventually, once you've had some absinthe, you go in and they give you this mask, and you're not allowed to speak or use your phone or your camera or anything like that, and you're basically free to explore about 4 levels that they've completely converted into this story space. And is it a Italian Hamlet, I think? Is that
Macbeth.
Macbeth. And it's pretty cool. It's fun. You can watch people, you can follow people, or you can explore on your own. There's stuff like a candy store that you can go in, and there's actual candy that you can eat and stuff like that. It doesn't really, give you a story step by step. It kind of lets you discover it on your own.
And that kind of thing has led to another thing that's kind of building over the last couple of years, at least here in the States, has been this idea of these, haunted houses, these which have been something that have been around a long time, right? But now it seems like they're really kind of catching hold to a mainstream audience. There was here in LA, and in New York, there was this company that produces these blackout haunted houses, and they're billed as the most intense haunted houses out there. You have to be 18 or older to even get in the thing, which immediately makes you go, huh, okay, what's this? And they really kind of hype it so that you're like, they give you a freaking safe word, at the beginning of the experience, saying if it gets too intense for you, here's the safe word, and you'll tap out and you'll go outside, no refunds. And so like I did the one a couple of years ago, and it was just basically this crazy, it felt like I was in a David Lynchian, mental asylum. And you go through by yourself, and that's another thing. They separate you from all your friends, and they just kind of put you through this experience that really is very, very intense. And there were actually a couple times, there was one time in particular where I was like, okay, I got to calm myself down, or I'm going to use the safe word, because I didn't want to. I mean, there was a time where I really felt like I was suffocating for real, and I had to just kind of calm myself down because I knew I really wasn't. I knew it was just them kind of manipulating the surroundings and manipulating me to feel that way. So I had to kind of talk myself down. Very intense. If you get a chance, like I said, they're here in LA and they're in New York every Halloween. And they're working on, there's like a haunted campground thing that's happening this summer where it's like in Griffith Park at the old zoo where you can like go for a weekend, and it's like you camp out all night, and the whole thing is like this horror in real life, I guess. So this sort of thing is kind of taking hold. The point I guess I want to make with all this stuff, and we'll get to Accomplice Hollywood, is that we're living in this world where it's like all digital. It's like, ooh, I got this cool shiny app. Ooh, it's this thing, and I've got a theater in my living room. I can watch high def stuff and surround sound. But now the shininess of that is kind of wearing off, and people are hungry for more. They want to get out and do things, right? I mean, they want to get out and do real experiences with real people and things that they can touch and see. That's kind of becoming the new the new shiny, right? Because it's getting less and less. So, and Compass Hollywood is another great example. More promenade theater.
Anybody done that one? Here in Compass Hollywood, there's a couple. It used to be here, and now there's a couple in New York, and there's in London, and Neil Patrick Harris sponsored. But anyway, you go, and for 3 hours, you solve a mystery. It's sort of like dinner theater, but out in Hollywood. The one here, you're on Hollywood Boulevard, and you're cruising around in different locations, and you're getting clues, and sometimes even like there's real life clues where people, like the people dressed up as characters will come up to you, and you don't know that they're actually a part of the game, but they'll hand you a clue really creepily. And there's people that in like that, the picture of this guy, he's a writer in there, and he'll just shoot the shit while you're having a beer and taking a break. And he'll sort of, depending on what you tell him, he'll tell you parts of the story. And if you're lucky enough, you get to have a massage, like I did. Yeah, so it's really fun, and it teaches you about Hollywood, and at the end, you're kind of, you know, it's a cheesy mystery, but it's the fun immersion, that's what it's all about. And, you know, you go into Musso and Frank's and all these, like, cool landmarks and finding out about your city while you're having a bit of fun.
Yeah, it was like a living film noir movie. It was really, very, very
cool.
fun. It was a lot of fun. TV and motion ad agencies are climbing onto this too. I mean, most notably is The Walking Dead has a Walking Dead escape experience that travels around from town to town, where they basically set up a giant obstacle course and set pieces, and then you go through, and this is just one of them, but it's like it takes about an hour to get through, where you basically find yourself in the zombie apocalypse. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, that's a lot better than watching a trailer on YouTube, right? I mean, that's the real deal. So I haven't done that one yet. Has anybody done that one? It's definitely on my list. Another thing that people are doing that's really interesting is they're called secret cinemas, and these are happening a lot more. I think they're happening more in England than they are here yet, but it's where they're actually taking a location and, please don't turn the camera on. And where they get a location and they think they're gonna do a screening of a certain film, and they build an entire experience leading up to the screening of that film. So, any guesses to what film they're showing here? Kind of, I don't know.
Green Mile, we had Green Mile.
Yeah, Green Mile. I think it was Green Mile. I think it was either that or Shawshank Redemption. This actually does look more like Green Mile, doesn't it? So I bet it is. So obviously they're going to show the Green Mile. So what they're going to do is they're going to create this whole experience leading up to the screening of the film, where you're going to become a prisoner in jail. So I mean, it's a really kind of interesting way of really kind of surrounding you with that film. And whether I'd love to see, you know, what would The Shining be like, or you know, The Big Lebowski. I mean, there's great ideas that you can do.
With the, they did, I think it might be the Shawshank Redemption.
Shawshank Redemption, that's what I was thinking, yeah.
A really interesting thing where you go through, you know, like there's a shower scene with two naked prisoners beating the shit out of each other.
Nice.
And, you know, so it's pretty good.
It's pretty do they dust you with like lice powder?
But they don't always have to be about murder and solving mysteries and all these kinds of things. They could be fun, like Point Break Live that happens here. And that's like this fun reenactment of the amazing movie Point Break, which we're all fans of. And you get to be, an audience member gets chosen to be Johnny Utah. And your best Keanu comes out, and they actually do it really cleverly, where they have like cue cards, and so they'll for your lines, and they'll involve the audience and spray them with the water guns and the different scenes from the robberies and all that kind of stuff. They've actually got a new one for Terminator as well, which
nice.
You guessed it, you get to play the Terminator. Yeah.
Yeah. So that brings us to our next category, which is pretty obvious, and we could, again, it could be a whole segment on itself, is about video games and kind of how immersive that and everything is. You know, we started off with Pong, we started off with a lot of these, games on the Commodore 64 and Nintendo that are kind of third person, they're kind of side scrollers or whatever. But then at a certain point, things kind of got first person. It became very, very kind of personal. And that created kind of a whole new genre of games. And of course, everything started with Myst. Myst was very much, it was a first person thing, it was just you alone, creating an atmosphere as best they could back in the day. It was all static shots. This is before, 3D environments were able to be, built. Static shots created in sound, ambient sounds, and it really made you feel like you were there. It was very immersive. It was always just from your point of view as the player. And that led to, the first real 3D one that was popular back in 1993 was Doom, obviously. Oh, very good. It was very controversial. Remember when it came out? It was hugely controversial because it was so graphically violent. Oh my God, look how terrible. These pixelated monsters and the pixelated blood. Awful. And it was, and the other interesting thing about Doom was it was kind of the first, you know, free to play model, right? It wasn't like you downloaded it. It was shareware. Right, and it just wanted to get it out there. And I remember this, was it this game or Doom? Or Myst. I forget now which one of these games was what caused me to buy my first CD-ROM drive, was just so that I could play it. I think it was Myst. Yeah, I think it was Myst. That was, I remember going down to whatever that store was back then and getting my first CD-ROM for my 386 computer, whatever it was back then.
So it would have required you to have a modem at the house.
Yeah, oh, that's true. Yeah, it was, those were great times. Yeah, my 2025 modem. So, Doom led, so fast forward to 10 years ago now already, Half-Life 2, 10 years ago, it's crazy, where things really kind of started to have a look, and the process was really, we're getting to the point where they could really make things look realistic. And the interesting thing too with Half-Life 2 is all of a sudden now story became even more important, really. I mean, it was all a story. They had the capability with, you know, storyline and character development. And a lot of the technology finally enabled this stuff to start to be able to be built and make it even more realistic. Because before then, you know, they couldn't even, up till, it wasn't too long before that they could even get sampled voices, remember? I mean, back in the day, I mean, just even getting sampled voices was a huge thing. So this was about the era where things really took off. And that leads us to today, and they're not all about shooters, you know, we've got really kind of immersive stuff. We were playing this, weren't you, Behnam, Forza?
Oh yeah, it's fun. It's totally fun. It feels real. It's weird. It's really crazy how they've done it, and different cars feel differently, and the tracks feel like you're actually in it. And with Kinect now, you know, with like they have some sports and all that kind of stuff, but the sensors are starting to, you don't even need a controller anymore, right? So you just do your stuff, yeah, and it actually reads it. It's amazing.
Somebody's popular.
Don't worry, we're not looking at you.
So, everything's just ARGs, and this is another thing that kind of came about 10 years ago because of the technology. This was kind of as the technology of the internet became a lot more ubiquitous, and download speeds became a lot faster. This kind of new form of entertainment, alternate reality games, came out, and this was just kind of these things that took place online for the most part, with real-world stuff printed in. It all started kind of with one of the precursors was the Blair Witch Project. And that was, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, that was one of the first ones where it came out and they had a world that they created around these characters that actually existed on the internet thanks to the internet. So you could actually get into who these characters were, and the shooting style was, of course, this first, you know, because of digital cameras and stuff, it felt like you were with that camp and getting spooked out by all this crazy stuff. So it felt really like one of the first sort of POV immersive movies.
With the, is this real or not?
Yeah.
And that was the thing that they did there. And then in 2001 was the first kind of professionally, you know, developed alternate reality games, and that was for the movie AI, Artificial Intelligence. And this was a big game that took place over the summertime. You know, 30, 50 websites, you make phone calls, and I remember I was taking part in this, kind of following along, and I remember leaving my office for lunch one day, and as I was getting in my car, my phone rang, and I picked it up and I listened to it, and it was a character from the game calling my freaking phone, and that hooked me. That was the moment right there. I forgot about lunch. I went back in on my computer, dialed up, you know, fired up my modem to see what, because I knew something was happening in the story. It took place, these take place in real time over probably 3 months. It was a long game, and that kind of started the alternate reality gaming genre, where these things would, and also included, you know, it was like kind of like internet archaeology. You discovered new websites that would lead to phone numbers, and it was all like websites from the future. It was kind of crazy, and it told a story. It was a sequel to the movie AI, but it was a prequel to the movie AI. So, but it took place after the movie. So it was really kind of interesting when it was done. They had live events. They had rallies for, you know, the robot rights and all sorts of fun stuff that you could do in the real world. So it really kind of blew everybody's minds and blurred that reality and fiction line. So ARGs are a little hard to get your head around, so we thought what better way than to show you an ARG. We've got a little 10-minute version of one of these to kind of give you an idea of what these could be. Behnam, you want to take them through?
Sure, so all of these websites and all this stuff that we're going to show you, this is kind of the abridged version, but all of this is out there, and if you go to nomimes.com, you can sign up and do it, or you can just plug it in while we're doing it. But if you go to, let's say you go to a website called International Mime Academy, and it just looks like a normal old site for, you know, teaching mimes how to mime. And I'm going to hold this because you got to kind of see that stuff. And if you go through it, it's, you know, the About Us is about this guy, the master mime that started, and all he wants to do is teach people miming. And you go through the history and how it was in the Egyptian times, miming back in the day, and you hit the Contact Us page. And you look and it tells you a little something. It says for more information, call a number. So we're going to zoom in. And look at that, it's a 310 number. So everybody have your phones out. You can actually go and do this.
Everybody needs to call this number for the full effect.
No.
310 number.
What's that?
That's the area code.
Yeah, that's the area code. Yes, if you're, there's an EU number too, if you want to use that. but if you go and you make the call, let's try to do this.
Yeah, this is real time.
Yeah.
Alternate reality gaming folks. Here, I can play it.
I'm going to try to hold this up. Are you going to do it? You're going to hold it up to your mic?
Merci for calling the International Mime Academy. If you are wondering why it is that I am talking, this is the Mime Academy. Well, that is because clairement, as you see, as you apparently think, if you are interested in information, then I suggest you check out.
Don't do it, it's a trap. A horrible trap. I used to think that a mime was a terrible thing to waste. Now I know a mime is just a terrible thing. They got me, and I need your help. Find my website. A terrible thing to waste. A terrible thing.
All right, so our buddy that needs help.
Classic call to action there. So.
Yeah. So he told us terrible thing to waste, right? That's what he kept saying. So if you were to go back to your interwebs and put in a terriblethingtowaste.com, you see his blog. If you, I'll try to manually hold that there. If you take a look, it's just this guy Oswald that wants to be a mime. That's all he cares about, and it's just about his trials and tribulations of becoming a mime. And if you look, his first post says, "I love Instagram. I'm so excited. I love it so much." So lo and behold, if you go to Instagram and put in Oswald the Mime, there's his page. Oh, we'll get that back up. This is so manual, it's awesome. Oswald the Mime's page, if you could read what's on that screen, it says, "I love photography because you can silently convey a thought or a message in 5 or 6 images." So that's our clue, right? So let's take a look at the images that he's posted, and you can't see them all, but we can pretend. There's a guy, and call it out if you know it. So this guy's looking, so look for... And there's that picture of Oswald, and it's hard to see, but that's Oswald. So look for Oswald the Mime. There's like an on button there. Let's put, yeah, there it is. On you, and if you look at that top picture here, whoop, it's a tube. It's like a tube clock. So YouTube, right? So look for Oswald the Mime on YouTube. So yes, you go on YouTube, and there's Oswald the Mime.
Figuring that out. Very smart.
If you go to YouTube, there he is.
My name is Oswald. I'm a store manager of a radio hack in St. Paul, Minnesota. I just want to make people laugh. You know? I saw this flyer for a free mime class, and so I thought I could. They loaded us into a van. They blindfolded us. It drove us around for, days. They taught us the basics. The invisible world, the invisible box. And then they just go out in the streets and mime. It was horrible. They said, read the quote. Beat. They said they're going to sell us to guys, say shells, and all their cities, sweet home in Minnesota. They all report to a guy called Mr. He said he gets nothing.
Okay, they're coming. So this door right here is locked with some sort of bias lock. It says it's Kryptonite Evolution 2000. Anybody knows how to unlock one of these locks, let me know. Email me at Oswald at my website.
Okay, so it was a little bit hard to hear, but he's been taken hostage by the mastermind, and he wants us to help him. And he talked about a lock. Talked about the Kryptonite Evolution 2000, and he said he needs help to figure that out. So I don't know about you guys, when I need to figure something out, I go to Google. So if you Google the Kryptonite Evolution 2000, what's that?
The one where you just need a big pen.
That is exactly the one you need a big pen, and that's the one. You knew this answer. Damn, that is bad security for a lock. So there it is. It's a real thing. Like if you, obviously, you were not planted, Lauren, but if you look up Kryptonite Evolution 2000, sure enough, it's a big pen. So he said to email him at his website. So if you send an email to oswaldthemime@aterriblethingtowaste.com, and with the word big or pen, then you get a response. And of course, and it says, I'm free. So you freed Oswald. Again, you can play this yourself if you go to our site, and there it is. So in the span of a few minutes, we went to all these different places, right? We went to websites, we went to blogs, YouTube, Instagram, Google, and mail, and I'm still not, I'm getting rings.
Oh no, if your phone's ringing.
You better answer it. If phones are ringing. Oh.
Here, I'll play it. Break your phone's gonna ring here. It's good.
Oh, little Oswald. I am not done with you yet, my friend. Anytime you see a mime, I am there, and I am watching you. One day, when you least expect it, we will snatch you. Then, as part of my army of mimes, you will help me rule the world.
So for those of us whose phone rang, it creeps me out every time too. But it's just this fun way to remind you that you're a little bit more immersed in the story than you even think you might be. So in that few minutes, we just went through, and this could be considered an ARG, a transmedia experience, if you will, but it's all sort of immersive entertainment. And there you go. Yeah, well done. Well done.
It's tough in this room. There's not a lot of good. So let's look really quick at some other ways of kind of this immersive storytelling, immersive entertainment. And this is another thing that's been picking up lately, and that's been kind of in actual installations that kind of stick around. Now, everybody remembers laser tag. That was kind of the first. I mean, it became very broad, mainstream appeal. I mean, they were in shopping malls, for God's sake. So the same people that, you could rent, some time and go around and shoot your buddies in this kind of cool environment that they built. And that when those guys grow up, they thought, that's not enough, let's get paintballs. And so that paintball started becoming very popular. It is you can kind of see that progression, right? These are the same kids that started out in laser tag, and now they're doing paintballs. And that's just, man, what a culture that is. Over in Asia, less so here, are this idea of these escape this room experiences. That this is in a shopping mall, I think like in Singapore or somewhere, where it's basically an escape this room installation where you and a bunch of friends are locked in this room, and you've got 20 minutes to find your way out. And some are kind of spy themed, some are like bank robbery themed. But they're a lot of fun. I've never done. Has anybody done one of these? They're supposed to be really a lot of fun. So they're kind of taking off. And again, this is a social thing you can go do with your friends. Getting into the promotional space. Remember a few years ago when all of a sudden 7-Eleven started converting into actual quickie marts to promote the Simpsons movie? These were cool. This was like one right next to me that I wasn't living there yet, sadly. But I mean, if you went inside, they had even changed the Slurpee machines to whatever that was called, and they changed the interior of it too, and the products, they were selling pink donuts, and it was just amazing what they did, totally transforming these 7-Elevens into quickie marts. Another example of this back in San Francisco, ran for a few years, is an experience called the Jejun Institute that started off in this office in the financial district. And what started off, I mean, it was really bizarre. You go into the financial district in this big, office building where, it was very buttoned down business, and you find this little office, and you go in there, and all of a sudden this experience would start. It would start on video, but then you'd get instructions, and you'd pull out a card, and basically then you're sent on basically a scavenger hunt throughout the financial district in Chinatown of San Francisco. It was an art installation, it was an art project. It didn't cost anything to do. And what followed was like an amazing, you know, two-hour experience where you're running around the streets of San Francisco, you know, going from one place to another, and the story was unfolding. And then they subsequently had another, you know, a sequel to this. But this was really a great experience, and I wish it was still the folks at Nonchalance did that. Local around here, there's the Time Travel Marts. There's 2 of them. I don't know if you've been in there. They're basically storefronts that have been converted into basically it's supplies for time travelers. You go in there and it's really a lot of fun. There's one in Silver Lake, and then there's one kind of in Mar Vista, I think, Del Mar. And what it is it's really kind of a front for an educational and tutoring series. In the back room, they've got tutors that help students with their reading skills, and so it's really kind of this cool front for education, right? But these installations remain, and in New York they've got like a pirate supply mart, you know, and they've got different versions of these. But the Time Travel Mart's a lot of fun. Highly recommend you to go take a look at one of these if you get a chance. They're free again, and you can actually buy stuff. So, and then also nearby is the Museum of Jurassic Technology. Anybody been in there? Culver City, really interesting. It's an art. Again, basically, it's an art installation disguised as a museum, and you go in there, and it's really hard to describe. It's just, you know, showing these exhibits that it's like they're from another reality. It's like talking about, it's just these technologies that don't really exist, and again, there's this kind of like narrative flowing throughout the whole thing, and basically, it's a lot of fun because you kind of make your own narrative out of it. You make it what you want. Ends up in a tea room upstairs. Really highly recommended. It's right there on Venice Boulevard, and it's just tucked away. It's just in among the shops you'd never know. It's just the Museum of Jurassic Technology, and it's amazing. It's just right there for everybody. Ash, you want to talk a little bit about the apps?
Who, me? Sure. There's been a few fun apps out there that start to immerse you too. If you guys have played Zombies Run, some friends of ours in the UK, that it's a really cool take, a fun sort of story immersive way to get you to run, to do fitness. And you know, once in a while you'll have this with you, and you'll start to hear sort of zombies chasing you. And if they get closer, you have to run faster. And so it's a really fun, cool way to get fit while you're sort of immersed in a world.
And for those like me who don't like to run, you can also walk. Then most notably, you know, Google has been investing a lot of money on this idea of this game called Ingress, which is basically it's one part kind of location-based RPG and one part alternate reality game, and I think it's been going on now for almost 2 years now. And it's basically, and I think is it out on iOS yet? I'm not sure. It was Android only for a long, long time. But basically, it's just you join one of 2 factions, and it's basically, you know, it's Risk. I mean, you're vying for territory. Beautifully done. The interface is just really, really pretty. But it's really compelling, fun gameplay. The challenge with all this stuff, as you probably know, but maybe less for kind of, you know, is the challenge with all these is how do you get somebody up out of their chair and actually go do stuff. And those of us that have done it, you know that it can be a lot of fun. It can be very, very rewarding. But for just kind of your average, you know, your mainstream audience, that's a big design challenge. You know, why do I want to get out of my chair to get these points? I want to be able to just point and click and go shoot a monster on the screen. Why do I got to go out of my local Starbucks to do that? You know, it's kind of ridiculous. So the idea then becomes, you know, try and build something that people can do when they're out and about anyway. So, so that's kind of where we are. Are there any other examples of some of this stuff that come to mind that maybe we could share? I mean, because obviously we're only, you know, 2 guys, but these are some of the kind of interesting things we've seen, you know, lately and over the years, as far as ways to kind of immerse people into stories and kind of this experiential entertainment thing that is kind of really catching hold.
Well, Queen of the Night is got to be really popular in New York, and it's a very similar experience to what Punch Drunk's doing, Sleep More, where you and other people that you walk in with are essentially taken into this experience, and essentially they walk you through essentially dinner theater. but it's very much done in. I'm trying to remember the storyline of it.
It's called Queen of the Night.
Queen of the Night. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you also have. I know Zeitgeist out of DC just did it recently. They were running a participatory theater festival that brought in Ex Machina, Dog and Pony, who's out in DC. Ex Machina did a show where the audience controlled the characters on stage through video game controllers.
Oh, interesting.
Where you had to, they were scientists that had to defuse a bomb or solve something. And you're starting to see more participatory theater projects nowadays.
What was the name of that one?
It was the Zeitgeist DC International Participatory Theater Festival.
And there's another one in New York that's based on Alice in Wonderland too. And I can't remember the name of it all.
And I think it's Anchifel.
Anchifel, yeah. That's a really interesting kind of. That was second on my list, and when I get out to New York City, was to see that and sleeping more. But yeah, it's really kind of fun how the technology is kind of this weird hyphenation of things that we can do. It's part theater, it's part game, it's part dinner theater. The idea of dinner theater has been around for a long time. And the idea of like murder mystery theater has been around for a while. It's just really kind of interesting to see how things are really starting to kind of catch hold in a very cool way. And I think we're going to see more of that. The future. What do we want to talk about?
The future. Final act.
I mean, well, the good thing is, I like to think that, there's some stuff already out there we can using existing technologies. Obviously a big one that people are looking at with a lot of hope is the Rift, the Oculus Rift. I got a chance to finally, use one. Has anybody here played around with Oculus at all? Yeah, it's pretty amazing actually. It's very pixelated right now. It reminds me of looking at an old Game Boy screen. But it's 3D. Man, my God, you feel like I was surprised when I would look down and not see my feet and my body because it just kind of felt that real. It was just the response and there was no lag. It was really amazing. I got to see a documentary that a guy did that he presented in Oculus Rift. It was a documentary about his dad who was there during the regime, the Chilean military coup. It was a documentary, but it was amazing. And it felt like I was there. Another way, we've all looked at that kind of this immersive thing, and I wanted to show you one. This is a trailer that we did for a project back when we were working together at Fourth Wall Studios, but it's just kind of a way that we try to imagine. Well, you explain it. I'd rather you explain it, since you directed it.
Yeah. Well, it was our take. This was a studio that was started a couple years ago that is no longer, but nonetheless, it was about the vision of the future and how you can start to truly immerse it. What we present here is very, very, very ambitious, but nonetheless, it's the beginnings of sort of the augmented reality stuff. If these Oculus Rift, if Google Glass were to start to encompass you and really bring you and make you feel like you're in part of the story. So let's have a look. Hopefully you can see it. we were trying to imagine a world where the story leaps off your phone and onto all around you. And is that projected with your phone? Is it projected with your mind? However you can get immersed in that is what we were hoping would happen soon.
Yeah, and obviously some of the new tech, with not so much Google Glass, but I mean, as Epson has come out with a little bit more, it's starting to happen. These smaller headsets that are going to have. There's still a lot technically to do there. There's still a lot with the pipeline, the network that needs to be able to deliver stuff so fast enough to be able to do a polling or something like that. But yeah, that's one of the one of possible futures. I mean, and obviously we think of the holodeck as the ultimate. It's like where are things going to go as far as immersion goes, as far as immersive stuff goes, and do we want that? I don't think anything is going away. I don't think movies are going away. I don't think TV is going away. I think they're going to change. Radio changed. Radio didn't disappear when television came along. It did change a little bit, but it didn't disappear. Same with live theater. It changed a little bit, but ultimately, I think the answer. I mean, hopefully you get from this. What we wanted to do with this was just kind of present a bunch of stuff to you guys that will hopefully inspire you and get you to think about ways to, different ways to use technology, what kind of has been done, and where we could go in the future. When we're designing our own things or doing our own experiences or taking part in it, and I hope it's food for a lot of thought. So.
Yeah.
Because we think this is cool. And I think the answer to it is yes. I don't think it's just a fad. I think it's kind of here to stay, and it's just going to kind of grow and grow as we go. There'll be fatty parts of it, but I think for the most part, it's the future. That's my answer.
Cool.
So.
Awesome, guys. Any questions?
We have a whole extra
concerns, comments? Hold that.
You guys didn't mention very much about holograms, because that's becoming.
Yes.
You should talk about holograms.
I love holograms. Michael Jackson. Yeah. I mean, it's coming. That kind of stuff is starting to be, as we saw a few days ago, or some we saw on the Billboard Music Awards, that it got a lot of controversy that they had this holographic Michael Jackson cruising around, but it still felt a little flat. It still felt like he's just kind of projected in this thing, but it'll get there.
Well, it's an interesting thing too. It's like, well, you can build a physical hologram that is freestanding on its own, like the holodeck. You don't need to put anything on.
Yeah.
But there is, with the technology now with Oculus Rift, I mean, you can create 3D objects that it's like it's standing here, and I can look at it, and I can walk around it. Nobody else is seeing it, but it kind of does the same thing. But it's just more internal, right?
So how does Oculus? I have a question. How does Oculus Rift keep you from falling or like bumping into a?
Well, right now there's not a lot of walking around, right? I mean, it's mostly just kind of static. You stand there.
Okay. You just look around.
You're looking around, and I think there's different ways with joysticks and stuff here. Although they do make, that's the whole thing is they make those tracks or whatever. There's different people kind of playing around with ways to walk.
Yeah.
Physically walk and what?
It's like a baby walker. I've seen
like a baby walker,
so
right?
You're wearing your socks and you're kind of like walking and you just sit and
it's just like rollers that you're.
It's not quite the holodeck, but.
That game, Shark Punch.
Shark Punch.
Shark Punch. So it's the Oculus Rift and someone connected to Connect.
Oh,
sharks fly at you like punching.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there is some really interesting. There's people playing around with a combination of Kinect and Oculus Rift. It's really interesting, where they're using and they're actually addressing that problem of looking down and not seeing your body.
Yeah,
where all of a sudden now look, no, I am. I can look and I can see because the Kinect is tracking me, and I can see a very pixelated version of my own body in the room, which is kind of interesting. So it's a really exciting, weird time. There's going to be a lot of stuff being thrown at the wall that's not going to stick, but among all that stuff is stuff that is going to stick. And the thing about is going to be key is going to be, mainstream adoption. That's the thing. But who knew? 6 years ago we didn't all have little, ubiquitous computers with GPS in our pockets. Now we all do. What's going to be the next piece of technology that we're all going to have that's going to enable, storytelling and entertainment in a really interesting way.
It's quite cool. There's, I don't know if you saw on Kickstarter, someone just run this campaign where you can 3D print like a holder, so put your phone into it, and it's a virtual reality system with your mobile phone, and so you print the assembly, put your phone into it, and then
then you can wear your phone.
Well, it's weird, right? So I spoke to the chap that's invented it, And he said, you can't clip it to your head because then you start to feel sick. But if you hold it with your hands, then you don't get any of the business for some reason.
That's great. That's a lag issue.
They've taken care of the lenses, so the breakthrough was the lenses that fit into this thing. And then it's really good. It's not as good as Oculus Rift, but it's close. It's quite good. Yeah.
Oculus Rift was good because it wasn't very heavy. It wasn't really bulky. You know, you put on some headphones, and the headset itself was not very heavy at all. I would say it was less.
Did you do the head skill?
No.
I had to rip mine off. I was like sat on the chair like the thing. Has anyone else done this? So I sat with the Oculus Rift and they're going up, and I was looking down, like, you're going, fucking hell, it's amazing. And I was going up and up, and I felt my stomach going like that. Before I went over the top. Yeah, really,
roller coaster ride.
Yeah, and it was, it was only like excited about it or something.
Which brings, the challenges filmmakers around, no, I mean, to talk about, filming an environment in 360 panorama, there's a lot of problems. There's going to be a lot of problems to that. They've got that camera now that is like a ball that's got lenses all around it. Well, it's hard, to do live. It's hard enough to keep the cast out of the shot as it is, But I was thinking, well, maybe they need to take a lesson from like Henson, and you build a set that all the cast and the crew is below. Through the set and the actors are on top. Who knows? I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see because then, then you're in a film. I mean, imagine being in a 360-degree film that you can then wander around.
Well, it's all going to be composited together with individual pieces.
Yeah.
So you'll have individual actors being placed where they are in the 3D.
Yeah, you could do it in a virtual space.
There'll be a combination of that.
The crew in the back.
Right. So it's really, because we've really been looking into that at Fort Walton and some of the stuff, and we've done a couple things that are like POV, just like one direction, and that's tough enough as it is, with the steady cam and keeping the crew out of the shot, So I think it'll be a combination of compositing, but who knows? Anybody else? Any other comments, questions, critiques?
Have you guys ever seen the Google Glasses? You got the actual Google screen on your glasses?
I've played with Google Glasses. Right now it's just a little bit up in the corner, right? Yeah, because it's not. I did it at South by Southwest. I tried out the Epson one. That is a little bit more. It's more full vision, even though it's just kind of a screen, but it's a stereo screen right in front of you, and it's like a mini Oculus Rift. It's not as immersive, but it's just a little pair of glasses you put on. So it's there. So it's a first step. Google Glass is going to be interesting to see how that takes hold. I'm not sure. I'm kind of skeptical, like with the Segway. They said the Segway was going to change all of our lives. Now it's just kind of a joke, right? But
it's going to be the next
law enforcement, does it, and,
Well, I would say like 3D is going to make it when the glasses are coming. Google Glass will be a thing when the glass is not there. When it's in your brain.
So you're talking implants? Here we go with the implants.
Yeah.
Well, they did. They had
to
develop
contact lenses.
They had to develop contact.
Yeah.
That's tough. So I just want to add RAM. If they're going to have implants, I just want more RAM.
Yeah. You can go faster.
Well, thanks, guys. No, this has been good stuff. Thanks for appreciate you coming by.